So I thought it might be appropriate to to share some things with you about none other than the great Beethoven, because just 2 days ago it was his 250th birthday. Would have been, and what a fascinating genius, tormented, like so many geniuses are. That's why I'm so relieved I'm not a genius. But you know, the amazing thing about Beethoven is a lot of the myths and the stories that you've heard about him, they're actually true. He had an extraordinary life, an abusive childhood, going deaf, and but one thing what I think is really interesting to talk about the composer is because classical music can be hard to get into for a lot of people, right? But I find if you start to understand the stories of the composers, who these people were, and get into their lives, then the music they write becomes much more accessible. And you can frame things in a very different way when you understand who the composers are. So, there's a lot of stuff written about Beethoven. Some of the biographies are thousands of pages long, movies, um, but there are some really great resources as well. Easy reading, funny things. I will post those in the chat later on, some recommendations on where to dig a little bit deeper if you're interested. But a lot of the facts about him, like he was a slob, that he really appeared to be crazy because he would be waving his arms, conducting music in his head. I love the fact that Beethoven and Bob Dylan were both mistaken by the police and arrested at the height of their celebrity. Beethoven in Vienna and Bob Dylan in New Jersey. Poor Beethoven had gotten lost, and he was peering in windows of apartment buildings to try and orient himself to see if he recognized anyone. We have a different word for that today. But funny. But he was also a guy who was a very emotional guy, and because of that, and I'm sure because of the abusive childhood and all the challenges he faced growing up, he was someone you wouldn't want to mess with. And there's some great stories about those things. He once said to a critic that what I shit is better than anything you ever thought of. There's also a story about how he got into an argument with a patron at a venue, and he smashed a chair over the guy's head, and then got angry when the guy wouldn't pay him money he was owed. So there's lots of these kind of stories out there, and I thought I would share a few with them that I hope you find as interesting as I do. Okay. So here we go. Beethoven died during a thunderstorm on March 29th in Vienna in 1827. When he died, the headstone had one word: Beethoven. That was it. Nothing more was required because he was that famous. So this is a pre-show ritual that I've never tried, but I'm going to discuss this with the band. It was reported that Beethoven often dipped his head in cold water before going on a stage or before composing. Now, we don't know why. He's never given a reason why, but you don't know until you try it, right? For 3 years early in Beethoven's career, Beethoven actually earned his living playing the viola. And that might be why People compare his orchestrations on piano as if they were written for stringed instruments. So perhaps with that harmonic background, that influenced all of his compositions. Beethoven's Sonata, Opus 27, number 1, the one before Moonlight Sonata, took over 2 years to compose. I know what that's like. Because he had to write Prometheus, the ballet, just after he started it. So the ballet was commissioned, so he had to finish that first before he could get back to the sonata. I know how that feels too. Okay, after Beethoven's mother passed away in 1787, he was forced to look after his younger brothers, and he took the role very seriously, even to the point of forbidding them to marry women that he didn't think were suitable enough. Thomas Broadwood, the English sent Beethoven one of his pianos as a gift in 1818. But by the time the piano arrived, Beethoven was profoundly deaf and wouldn't. Oh, it's so tragic. We know a lot about how Beethoven composed from his sketchbooks. And luckily for us, most of those survived. All of his ideas were written in the sketchbook first. I have dozens and dozens of journals. I should probably hold on to those and retrace my steps on certain songs and find out where I've gone wrong. In one of Beethoven's letters, he said he thought his deafness was due to a fall that he had, but no one really knows the reason. It was more likely to be related to one of the many, many illnesses he had. He had so many illnesses throughout his life. He had smallpox, typhus. He was always ill, in fact. He suffered from colitis as well, from rheumatism, from rheumatic fever, abscesses, jaundice, chronic hepatitis, infections, cirrhosis of the liver. I don't know when he had the strength to ever compose. Oh my God. Well, he drank a lot. I mean, who can blame him? His father was an alcoholic as well. And the extent of Beethoven's cirrhosis was only discovered after his death. Beethoven's final words were believed to be, "Pity, pity, too late." Apparently in response to having just received the gift of a case of wine from a music publisher. So Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, known as the Choral Symphony, was the very first symphony ever written where it included parts for singers. How do you like that? That's a good one. So Beethoven's father was a failed musician. And unfortunately for Beethoven, that led to a lot of bullying. The father realized the son's talent and, seeing financial rewards for himself, decided that Beethoven should be the new Mozart. And he made poor Ludwig practice for hours beyond his will, and karma. The father died in 1792 before he ever got to see Beethoven's truly realizing his success. Now, young Ludwig had to leave school when he was only 11 to help with the family duties. So he never learned math. He never learned to do multiplication or division, and I'll say, so what? With the genius he had, so what? Beethoven didn't call his Sonata Opus 27, number 2, The Moonlight. He called it number 14. The name was actually penned by a German poet named Ludwig Rostov, many years after Beethoven had died. But the poet thought it sounded like moonlight reflecting on Lake Lucerne, and the name just stuck from that moment on. So Beethoven's Third Symphony, known as Eroica, was initially dedicated to Napoleon Bonaparte, whose ideas were mightily respected by Beethoven. However, when Napoleon died, back up, when Napoleon declared himself emperor, Beethoven went into one of his rages, ripped off the front page of the score, and scribbled out Napoleon's name from the work. Well done. Beethoven only wrote one opera, and that was called Fidelio. It took him 10 years to write it, which is probably why he never ventured to do a second opera. I think one was enough. Regarding his deafness, after realizing that his deafness was permanent and irreversible, Beethoven wrote a letter in 1802 to his brothers. And the letter is known as the Heiligenstadt Testament, in which he faced up to the disability and announced his intention to overcome it. The letter was never sent, but it was found in his papers after his death in 1827. So, there was a story about some sibling rivalry, which I loved. Beethoven had received a letter from his brother, signed, "From your brother, Johann Landowner." Beethoven replied, "From your brother, Ludwig Brain Owner." That was clever. So, after becoming deaf, Beethoven communicated with his friends and fans with a conversation book. So everyone would just write down the conversation, questions, and Beethoven would answer. The frustrating thing is that all of Beethoven's responses were verbal, so there's no written account of where his commentary was in these conversations. That's a loss for us all. So sadly, Beethoven's deafness began when he was only 27 years old. Actually, 25 years old. He suffered from tinnitus or tinnitus, ringing in his ears, years before it just finally completely deteriorated. Now, the date of Beethoven's birth is not exactly known. It's been assumed that it was December 16th, because on December 17th he was baptized. And in those days they would baptize children very quickly because many children didn't survive that long. So Beethoven, this I did not know, Beethoven taught for most of his life. Imagine having Beethoven as your teacher. Although he would only teach pupils who exhibited a certain level of talent, or if they happened to be very pretty girls. In that case, talent was optional. They weren't required to have any talent at all. Beethoven had a bad habit of always falling in love with unobtainable women throughout his whole life, which is why he never had a lasting relationship and never married. Poor Beethoven. He fell in love with one of his pupils, a girl named Josephine Brunswick, in 1799. She was believed to be the intended recipient of a mortal beloved love letter. Well, Josephine didn't marry Beethoven. She married a count instead. Beethoven also fell in love with a girl named Julie, who was a countess. However, she couldn't marry him because she was not good enough. I don't know. All right. His first composition was written when he was only 12 years old. I have some compositions that I wrote when I was 12. I don't think you want to hear them. I don't want to hear them. But Beethoven, it was a set of 9 variations for piano in C minor. At that time, C major was always my favorite key to write in. No black notes. Oh, that sounds terrible. Easy. No sharps and flats. Oh my God. Okay. The final movement of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is known. The words in the movement are sung to the poem of the same name, written by Friedrich Schiller in 1785. The piece was subsequently adopted as the national anthem of Europe. It was also used in a Bruce Willis film, Die Hard. Yeah, it was in Die Hard. It was when the crooks were cracking open a safe, I'm sure. How would Beethoven feel about that? It was also in Michael Jackson's single, Will You Be There, in 1993. His music has been used in many, many, many films, as you can imagine. Saturday Night Fever was one of them as well. A disco version of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, arranged by Walter Murphy and called A Fifth of Beethoven, was used in the film Saturday Night Fever. The use of the word fifth in this context was referring to a bottle of liquor, which was usually sold in bottles that contained a fifth of a gallon. So just on that note, I have to tell you, I just watched the Bee Gees documentary. Oh my God. Absolutely brilliant, touching, incredible vintage footage and interviews. It's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking. Documentaries called How Do You Mend a Broken Heart. The Bee Gees, I highly recommend it. Okay? Please watch. And finally, the Seventh Symphony by Beethoven was used in the 2010 film, award-winning The King's Speech, which is another great movie. So, there you have it. I will put a couple of references or dig a little bit deeper into the life of Beethoven. I'll put those references up in the chat shortly. So as a recap, we will be premiering the Turn the Radio On exclusively for you January 1st. Also, we got some very nice news yesterday. Our live album, Live in Europe, has been honored with a great recognition by being included in the top 10 live albums of 2020 by Blues Rock Review. Now that is in a year that has, given us some tough. This was really, really wonderful, wonderful bit of news to come in yesterday. So, yeah. And I will be joining you again for our Facebook Live visits January 8th. Okay, so I'm going to take a short break for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be working on some new songs for you, trying to finish some old songs for you, and doing some quality Zoom time with my family. And yeah, so I will be seeing you all again in the new year, and what a great year it will be. 2021, I already love the sound of it. We'll be back out on tour. We will face the new year with a new sense of gratitude and anticipation like we have never had before. And we are going to be touring our little asses off. So I do hope that we'll be able to come and see you throughout 2021. So until then, I wish you all a very, very healthy, safe, and peaceful holiday season. Wishing you much love and joy, you and your families. Happy New Year. And let's just close out 2020 the best we can. I will see you January 8th. Sending you much love. Bye for now.